Welcome. We are live once again with another episode of Frontera Radio. I am your host, Sergio Mora. We have yet another great guest for you today. He's been here with us before. He is the president of the Laredo Cycling Association. Did I say it correctly?
Laredo Cycling Association, Laredo Cycling Club. We go with different names, but it's the same.
And
basically the same.
A very visible guy in our community, Mr. Fernando Baldazo. He just ran for District 6. You ran a great campaign, by the way, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sergio.
I hope you decide to try it again, run for office, because you ran a great race. And we are here to talk about the Shiloh Bike Trails, man, which is a subject that I've talked about a lot. Because I used to live right by there, and it's just a beautiful area, beautiful place in terms of nature, in terms of what it affords the community, where people can just show up with their bikes. And there's like, last count, there was around 5 to 6 miles of trail.
Yes.
Of some of the most beautiful terrain in town. Manadas Creek runs through there. Hundreds of bikers go there on a weekly basis, especially during the weekends. That parking lot is packed, and it has a very interesting history in terms of how it came about. Not a lot of people know it's there. I think most people should know it's there and should go visit. Not only do mountain bikers go there, but a lot of people just go to jog, to hike. A lot of
trail
people,
walking, bird watching. There's a lot of people just bird watching, taking pictures as well.
Beautiful birds, man. I mean, I've seen there an abundance of cardinals, green jays, great kiskadees, just to name a few.
Yes.
There's a hawk that lives somewhere in there.
I was going to mention the hawk. Yeah, there's a few.
I don't know what kind of hawk. It's a Cooper hawk or a Cooper's hawk, or I don't know what kind of hawk, but like those speckled brown with white. Mm-hmm. Just gorgeous birds. I mean, that's not even to mention the deer in there, armadillos, turtles, rabbits, you name it. Like any day that you go there, you'll see something for sure. Yeah. And the Manadas Creek that runs through there, just some beautiful scenery there for you just to sit and just sit by the stream that runs through there. And so it ran into some controversy last year, and this had been a long time coming, in that the Springfield extension was planned and was executed rather poorly, in terms of just one day they just bulldozed straight through the middle of that thing, and the biking community wasn't really informed, and the trails were just chopped up right through the middle without really taking into consideration that, hey, you're traversing this very well used area, and in my opinion, the trail should have been prepared and connected before they did those changes. But at the same time, I think that spurred sort of more attention being paid to that, simply because of the backlash of people like, man, you just wrecked our deal. Like 2 miles got 1.5, 2 miles got chopped off, and there was promises. No, we're gonna replace what was lost, and they put this beautiful sign at the entrance, which just looks really nice, really amazing. And you picked up the baton and made sure that place was
that things get done. Well,
that things get done. Things.
The expansion of Springfield. Let's just go back to that.
Yeah.
What was controversial was that it came at a time where we had just La Bota Trails have been sold to a private investor, and another trails that we use, Morales Trails, at the same time was also, everything was sold. We've been doing this since 1990, a few of us. So we started with trails, the Benavides Ranch close to Colombia. Then, for some reason, we lost those trails. We built them at Morningstar Ranch by mile 27, I believe. And that ranch was sold. So we keep losing the trails to private investors. which, I mean, I don't blame, the owner lends us the property, and when it's time, somebody wants to buy it, well, he has to sell. I mean, no blame on the owner of the property or the investor.
Yeah.
But finally, we have some that belong to the community, which is Shiloh Bike Trails.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that arose last year, because the trails, they started working on the expansion when we had just lost 2 weeks before the other trails we were using.
Yeah.
I have been working with, I think this expansion was coming for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It was in the books.
Nobody
it had been delayed.
Nobody is really questioning that was needed.
Yeah, and we tried to delay it as much as possible. And councilman at the time, Mr. Martinez, listened to us, and it was going to be originally cut in half, the trails. Mm-hmm. So by talking to him, meeting with him a couple of times, we agreed to move as west as possible, and now everything had to be redesigned. I work closely with Gilpin, the engineering firm, and in conjunction with Marte, and we came to an agreement and some requirements that needed to be there for Springfield Extension to be able to use that instead of impacting us negatively, to use that road to our advantage. And we did. We went to check this past week on Monday. We asked the engineer and Dr. Martinez to put some culverts. That way we could transfer underneath, which would be safer for all cyclists, to go underneath the road instead on top of the road for safety. And, it would be a nice feature for all cyclists. And in the future, expand the trails west. And that's part of something that we will be working on as well, hopefully this year, next year.
When you say west, where because right now, where you could already see where the Springfield extension is connected, and you could see the work going on underneath and around. Where more west would it go, and what are we talking about? Like in terms of, for example, what amount of length of trail is going to be added by these new adjustments that are being made?
Okay, right now, as I inspected this week, and I invited the public to go, about 20 cyclists showed up, 25 on Thursday. To begin with, it's about 1.2 miles north and south. If you count the loop, it's about 1.2 miles. The sidewalk is about 12 feet wide, which will be used for road cyclists or people who don't want to use mountain bike. They can ride on that road, on the sidewalk, which is pretty wide. It will be a shared road for pedestrians and cyclists.
So you're talking about the length of the Springfield extension from where it connects on the other side, which is around, I forget the name of that new area.
Monarch? Is it Monarch or something like that?
No, I forget, but it's the one that comes in.
It will connect that subdivision with Shiloh.
Exactly.
So by riding that is on a road bike, it's 1.2 miles. But as I was there, I noticed that it had been cleared and the land was proper, it was compacted. So I suggested to our city engineer, Ramon Chavez, maybe we can flatten it, and just right there and then we can add 1.2 miles by using the adjacent dirt that's there, and it's rideable. The expansion west that I'm talking about is going underneath the road, and there's crossing Shiloh as well, coming back, crossing Shiloh, and Manadas Creek moves behind that seafood restaurant.
Okay.
So, and that's just
pescador.
Raw. El Pescador, yeah. So that's just raw nature. We can use that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it would be going underneath
We will go
Shiloh.
underneath Springfield, underneath Shiloh.
Wow.
And then the part of the phase 2 of Springfield Extension will be, they're doing a really nice bridge over Manadas Creek to connect International to Shiloh.
Okay.
So we want to use that as well.
Oh, wow,
since they're going to be clearing land. So, we want to get not just the original mileage we had, but increase the mileage. And there will be, since there's a bunch of hills, we'll have hills that will have more entertaining features for cyclists, for mountain bikers.
Which is, I mean, an integral part of mountain biking.
Yeah, and on the meeting that we had on Thursday with all cyclists, and we had a bunch. I mean, people from the south. I mean, I didn't know people from the south will come down all the way to the north to ride the trails. There's a bunch of people using the trails.
I've seen people from
San Antonio.
I've seen people. Okay, I've seen people because I used to live on the 4th floor of the building that's right there by the entrance, so you could see the parking lot at all times. And there's people that come in from God knows where, but they show up in the specialized vans that are for people to just tour the country, visiting different mountain bike trails. And I mean, it's amazing. I mean, people from across the country come, and I've seen people from way the interior of Mexico. I mean, you like where you de donde son, no, de Monclova, and that from everywhere. I mean, the sport is, especially after the pandemic hit, it just really
it boomed during the pandemic. Most of the cycling stores in town, they ran out of inventory because gyms were closed. People wanted to be outdoors and exercise, and they sold out of bicycles, parts, and everything. Nationwide.
Yeah, internationally. And has there there's always been talk that they're going to connect the bike trails. And I mean, if people don't know where exactly it is, it runs from 35 to the back of McPherson, to where Tuscany, the Tuscany apartments are, all the way to like where the Border Patrol is. And it's just a big square of land, and Manadas Creek runs through there, and the entrance is there halfway, at a halfway point, roughly around where Taco Ravi is, where if people are familiar with that area. And I mean, you could show up with your bike, and there's immediately at the entrance.
It's clearly marked on Shiloh. There's Shiloh trails, and then there's an arrow pointing to the trails.
Exactly, and once you get there, immediately you descend sort of. It's not a ramp, but it goes down. So immediately you are in the middle of nature.
Yes.
Like you lose, like you immediately stop seeing civilization.
And the advantage of that trail, since it's a little bit sunken, because it's on the creek.
Yes.
It's that during the summer it's a little bit cooler. And during our few cold days that we have, it's a little bit warmer. So it's more neutral weather. It's so people use it year round.
Yeah, people use it year round, like we were talking about. So tell us a little bit about just the mountain bike scene and the cycling scene in general, especially the creation of this place. How does one go about in terms of not only that one, but all the other trails that have been created? I mean, you find an interesting plot of land and you say, you know what? This would be a great mountain bike trail. Then what happens?
Yeah, I mean, we get volunteers, people that ride. We started going to other cities, San Antonio, Monterrey, Austin, and you will see all these trails. And we start building our own using Jeep trails, as well as creating single track, what it's called.
Yeah.
You try to find hills, to make it challenging, and then also to make it fun going downhill. And it's mostly done by volunteers. It's mostly the local teams, local volunteers that we build them. And then eventually for Shiloh, we approached the city. At the time, it was Bernie Chapa, Augie, Ramon Aviña, other guys, myself, Arturo, several people. And in conjunction with the city, we started working, this is what we can do. Then Parks will lend us a hand. But it's mostly a joint effort between local cyclists and city government. Now, when the city, of course, starts seeing more people using it, as we have ways of collecting data, how many people are using it, then we're able to ask government with some more help. And it's for the community. It's not just for us, the cycling team or the cycling club. We do it for the community. To give you an example, before it was just trails, Then the city was able to put some millings. I asked the previous councilman, we've been asking for water. We had no water in that park, those trails. And eventually, doctor came through with some water. We put 2 faucets. We put a shade area, a few benches, a workstation. So little by little, it's been improving. And it only improves because the sport keeps growing as well. Of course. So there's a higher demand. It's being used. And it's a great way, to get kids in a healthy lifestyle.
And one of the things about Shiloh, and also when you said that workstation, there's this thing that has all the tools that you might need.
All the tools you might need.
Including an air pump.
Yeah, an air pump, tools, everything. And, if any of you have ever ridden a mountain bike, towards the end of the ride, you're thirsty for sure. But sometimes you collect dirt, unfortunately, because you fall down. And, there's a rinse station now as well. So you can rinse yourself, rinse your bike. And, cyclists believe today, there was a group of guys going to go clear part of the single track because there were a bunch of leaves. There were being a lot of accidents because they were slipping on the falling leaves. So there were a few cyclists told me that they were going to go clean today. So it's a joint effort. But hopefully with this money that's coming in from the state, we want to be able to expand and maintain those trails where it's feasible for other people from out of town just to come and enjoy them.
And does it take a specific expertise in terms of like the width of the trails, the where the turns are placed, all that sort of thing? Because if you write it, it seems that it's very deliberate. Not to mention deliberate in the radius of the trails and the width of the trails and also it seems that there's an effort to be made to take advantage of every square foot of land. In terms that
zigzagging.
If you look at the map, it's like this. You know?
Zigzagging. Yeah. My advice to any new guy who wants to try Shiloh Trails: get to know your bike first. Ride on the road, ride around your neighborhood, ride on pavement, feel the brake. It has to become second nature to put the gears and to brake.
Yeah.
If not, you're going to have an accident. Shiloh Trails is not for the true beginner. It's somebody that has really knowledge of their own bike. Take it easy the first few laps. Learn the trails. Then maybe push yourself. But because you can have an accident.
Oh, and I've had my
share. We all had some experiences.
But you have to. Regardless, you have to wear a helmet. Knee pads are recommended. What else? So would you say that it's not the best for beginners? What for someone in Laredo that wants to get into the sport? Where do you recommend they start off with?
Yeah, once you get your bike, your mountain bike, you can do Del Mar Extension. We usually park at Iglesia Misericordia, and there's a isolated road that we have access to by being a member of the Laredo Cycling Club, and there's almost no traffic. You can do some miles. It's about 3.5 miles. Out and back, it's about 7 miles. So it's a great place to work out, get yourself in some basic shape, get to know your bicycle before you go into a challenging trail like Shiloh Bike Trails.
And then what other trails are there in town, and what is the difference between those and the Shiloh Bike Trails?
Well, the other ones, there's part of it in La Bota.
Yeah.
We used to have another one in Morales Trails, but they were always private. And I believe that ranch was sold to a private investor as well. I don't know exactly the status on those. I know some people go, some people avoid it. You might have to ask the new owner to ride them. But on the last meeting we had a meeting last week with Tyler, our new council member. And we might look into building some on Max Mandel golf course, because it already has the parking lot, it already has water, it already has some of the things that we might need, and it's a beautiful area. Yeah. We might just use like next to the river and build some trails in that area. So that was an option as well, to expand, to have a few places to ride.
And you were involved in applying for a grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife, specifically reserved for trail hiking and trail and bicycle trails. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what the process entailed and what is planned to do with those resources?
Yeah, Mr. Martinez, along with J.J. Gomez, Parks Director, approached me because part of the grant had to be a letter by a cycling advocate, and to pledge about 8 or 10 members, volunteers, to maintain the park. And I mean, of course, we had those because, I mean, as today, there's about 10 people maintaining it already. So getting the pictures was no problem. And I just wrote a letter along with the city. And I mean, there were letters of support, and the grant was approved. Part of the grant is specifically for Shiloh.
And how much?
270 and 270,000 as last I heard, plus match about 30,000 matched by City of Laredo.
Okay.
So at least we have 300, and it can only be used specifically for Shiloh Bike Trails.
Yeah.
So that's why last week we were promoting a meeting on Thursday to let anybody who's interested, who has some ideas, improvements we can do, to show up on Thursday. And we had a great turnout, and there were great ideas. You can still send in any ideas that you have or any suggestion to Laredo Cycling Club Facebook page. All those ideas, all those suggestions, I'll summarize them and I'll present them to our councilman and to Mr. Gomez sometime next week. Our councilman right now is, I think, taking a class in San Antonio. All new elected officials have to take a course. So I'm doing that work for him, and we'll be presenting next week. And we'll post everything, any new advancements, any information in regards to Shiloh Bike Trails on the Laredo Cycling Club page.
What kind of ideas, for example?
Well, I'll say the number one is trail expansion.
Yeah.
And we're really looking at that, going, the area that I told you underneath Shiloh to hit International and connect the Mike Doyle trails. There's a trail that runs parallel to Del Mar.
Okay.
So, So we'll eventually connect those.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, it will be a huge loop. And going east, we're planning on connecting North Central Park as well.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I mean if you explore that area, there's a way to go under McPherson and
it's kind of short. It doesn't meet the height requirements. But we're working on that. We already met with the assistant city manager with Ria. We met with Mr. Gomez. We met with Tyler, and we're looking at ideas and ways that would work. So it will be given to an engineer, that challenge, and see how we can go underneath. And it will be, if we do that, then we'll connect. You can come from all the way from North Central Park all the way to...
How about over? Like a little bridge?
Well, you want to avoid any possible accident, and the best way is under.
Yeah. Okay.
Faster, safer for everybody, for motorists, for cyclists.
So you've seen this sport. I think, is this the biggest you've ever seen it in terms of participation?
Our sport keeps growing, especially, we started probably like 10 guys back in the 90s, 91, 92. And it has been growing. Sometimes we have about 350 active members in town. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was an increase in the sport.
Yeah.
Not in our club. There was an increase in our club as well. But I see people now biking everywhere. You build it, they will come. Yeah. There was a bike lane built on Country Club Drive, and now I see a lot of people riding it. There's this gentleman and his wife, or this lady that ride it for recreational purposes. Yeah. But they just ride it in the afternoon when there's a shade. I mean, it's full of trees. It's a beautiful area. The sport is also, I don't know, Mr. Tad Brittingham. He's about 95 years old, and I see him there as well. So it's enjoyed by everybody.
Yeah, it's something that you can continue doing too.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah.
So you guys, the Laredo Cycling Club, it's very active, and you sometimes see the caravans of people that are riding along the road. What kind of excursions are those, and how far do they go? And what do the competitions look like, or what?
Well, that's for road cycling.
Yeah.
Anybody, even if you want to be a good mountain biker, I used to do a lot of mountain bike. You have to put your miles in. Yeah. So road cycling, we usually go. We try to get a escort service. You know, one of the cyclists will volunteer. Either I think Saturday is Mr. Mario Palos. Sunday, Arturo Dominguez volunteers his driver with a vehicle for safety. You know, going back. And our typical rides on Saturday are between 42 to about 55 miles.
Oh man, how long does that take?
About 3 hours to 55 miles. The average speed is about 19 miles an hour.
Okay,
and that helps you. Yeah, we have one stop.
Okay,
usually stop once, and that creates, you know, you build up your physical level conditioning, and you become a good mountain biker.
I see. And so tell us about what's the process for someone who just wants to they've seen it, they've heard it talked about. What are the best steps in terms of just, I mean, do you go to Target and buy a bicycle, or you wouldn't recommend that? Or
no, I mean, it depends. If you want to ride, they say, well, why are they so expensive?
Yeah.
Not only are they lighter in weight, but the components, they're better quality. So once you adjust them, they stay adjusted, you know, shifting faster, better brakes, everything's better. So, I mean, beginner level, I mean, there's a few stores that carry them, will be about $800 to about $1,300. And you'll get a good bike. My advice is always make sure they put a gel inside the tubes so you will not get flats. That's the number one recommendation, because some people don't ask for it, and sometimes the store, you know, they're busy, tending to other stuff, other clients, and forget to put it or ask the client if he wants it. It's an extra charge, but it's worth it. I mean, if not, you'll get a flat on the first ride.
Yeah, and then on Shiloh,
I'm saying for mountain bikes, yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of
that would be my first advice. Get gel on your tires.
And so, so a beginner, don't, like, even a beginner, you have to go with I mean, it's not cheap to $800 to begin a sport, but it's definitely something.
But it's a healthy investment.
You would recommend.
I've been doing it since 1990 because of an accident I had. That was my rehab. Then I stayed with the sport. Of course, I've been using a bike since I was 5 years old. But it's investment in your health. I go to the doctor, and it says, by the mileage you put a year, nobody knows when you're gonna die, but at least you have a better quality of life,
Of course.
You lower your cholesterol, your stress, it's part of therapy. So you're investing on your health, and anything you invest in yourself is a good investment.
And I mean, I was just, in Austin, I went to the Trek store, man. There's some bikes that are like $15,000.
Yeah,
like the price of a small car, man.
No, and you'll see some guys in a $2,000 vehicle, $3,000 vehicle with a $10,000 bike. They have their priorities straight.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. I mean, your bike, I use my bike more than my vehicle probably. You spend more time on the bicycle than on your car. So he gets a good bike, and yeah.
Amen. And there's you got your bikes, and then there's this thing about the pedals that have clips, and then some people say you need the clips, some people say don't get clips. What's that debate about?
Okay, well, the clips, it's not just the clips that gives you a bit better handling.
And that is, you have to get special shoes that have a thing that just clips onto the
the bicycle becomes part of you, so you get better handling.
Like skis.
Like skis.
Yeah.
This one have a little bit of play, but it's not just clipping in it. The shoes are, some of them are carbon fiber. The sole is carbon fiber, so they're really hard. What it does is, instead of wasting your energy with, like a regular tennis shoe, where, it acts as an absorber, shock absorber. Yeah. These ones, by being so hard, all the energy gets transferred to the pedal. Okay. So you actually become about 10 to 20% stronger. Because there's no energy wasted.
But at the same time, you're stuck to the bike.
You're stuck to the bike. It becomes second nature. You only have to practice for 10 minutes, clipping and unclipping. After you fall down once, it becomes second nature. I mean, you get used to it. Yeah. Like, oh man, I forgot to unclip. But so wear them loose when you use first using clips, there's a knob in the back where you have them tight or loose. Loose it as much as possible so you can get used to it. And then as you become better on clipping and unclipping, you can start tightening them so you can get better maneuverability, better handling of the bicycle.
And I mean, so mountain biking, we have options, very good options, but at the same time, I would say very few options, considering the size of the sport and the people that participate in it. But at the same time, this has been in other cities around Texas and even Mexico, and there's an infinite amount of trails that one can visit. And speaking about skiing, I mean, there's a place around Horseshoe Bay called Spider Mountain where it's literally you get on a ski lift and you attach your bicycle to the ski lift and it takes you up this huge hill, and it's downhill skiing, which is another aspect of the sport. Certainly more fun, certainly more dangerous. Yeah. But at the same time, it's something different. It's something different than your run-of-the-mill trails. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, if you want to do that downhill, they say, people tend to believe it's easier. Yeah. It's not. If you put a heart rate monitor, going downhill, your heart rate will be as high as going uphill because there's so much adrenaline. So make sure you have good brakes if you want to start doing that, and your helmet really tight, because that's where I got most of my stitches on my body going downhill.
Well, I mean, it's like going skiing in that there's black diamond trails, green trails, blue trails, intermediate, and I mean you're going.
Actually, I don't know. Some people might not know this about me, but back in 1997, I used to do cross country and downhill. Yeah. And I became a national champion in Mexico in downhill. But I would use a motorcycle helmet. Yeah. I came in second, but then the guy that won, he was disqualified for some reason. I was notified later, and they sent me the national champion in 1997.
Oh, wow, man.
Downhill. So I'm telling you, downhill, you want to do downhill, talk to me. Well, I'll give you some good advice.
You have an appetite for risk, man, because those things you could really
you'll fly. And that's why I know. my heart rate will be even higher than going uphill. Yeah. Because at the time we didn't have disc brakes, or I couldn't afford them. And I'm heavier than the typical cyclist. So obviously that mass going downhill, it was hard to brake. So it was not that I was good. It was that my brakes were bad. So I couldn't brake. So I would just had to have better handling skills.
Whatever works, right? Yeah. Hey, man, so tell us, in Texas, close by the Austin, San Antonio area, what good places are there for mountain bike? Like
there's so many. They have increased
and explored.
Yeah, there's a bunch of levels. Austin has a beautiful one right next to Barton Springs. There's that area, and it's a place that I will frequent a lot because you ride the trail back and forth. Then you take a break in a natural spring, in Barton Springs. So that's that would be the one I would recommend. If you go into Austin, start with that trail.
And what do you take when you go on these long rides? Like you have a little backpack. What do you put in there?
Well, I have water bottles, obviously, and then you have some gel packs, special food for cyclists, where they're tiny, packs of gel or cookies. Obviously, take
and that's extra, like for energy, right?
Yeah, that's just like extra energy. Yeah. Take some tools. Take some basic tools. Take a spur tube. On a mountain bike, you don't need a spur tube because you have that gel. Yeah. But if you're doing road, take a spur tube. Make sure the helmet fits properly and is tight properly. From experience, I already broken about 4 or 5 bicycle helmets. Oh wow! And been nasty falls when you're not expecting them. Yeah. So always have your helmet on and really secure fit.
And how do you know how to get around? Because you're in the middle of just nature, and it's easy to lose track of where the trail is headed, or if you're new, you don't really know where to go. What do the GPS on your phone?
What I've done in the past.
Are there different apps?
What I've done in the past, before all these new inventions, I would just go with somebody local. And everyone's friendly, all cyclists, you become a family. So reach out to a cycling store, and they'll tell you, hey, there's a group leaving tomorrow at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever. and just join that group.
Yeah.
Or if you're going on a mountain trail, on a mountain bike trail, there's always somebody. You can just follow somebody, reach out the same to the local store, and they'll tell you, or, on the forums, like when people from out of town come to Laredo, we always get a message, hey, is there an organized ride? Then I tell them the rides that we have, and then they join.
Yeah, there's a big presence on social media, right?
We have about
cycling clubs, not only here, but everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can just, get on Facebook, and you'll see the rides, and you'll meet somebody, and they'll post it. Hey, I'm going to this trail on Sunday, so join that group.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, and if you're going to an isolated place, there's also, you can download it to your app, and it will guide you where you're at.
There's apps that show
exactly
you where to go.
That you download it to your GPS on your bike, if you have a GPS on your bike, and it'll tell you where the turn is, where the exit is. It will be guiding you.
GPS on your phone, right? You could mount
on your phone, or
you could mount your phone
most of
on
the guys. And I mean, if you're already exploring new trails, it's because you already did so many trails. So you already invested on a good computer for your bike.
Okay.
And you can just download that trail to your GPS, and it will guide you as well. But the most fun, the safer, and the best one is just join somebody.
Just join
a local. Yeah, call somebody.
Fernando, so when do you think that all these new changes are going to be ready at Shiloh? And
okay, coming back to Shiloh.
What's the timeline for these proposed ones out by the Max Mandel course?
Okay, we'll begin with Shiloh. It's my understanding that people from the state of Texas will be coming, people from parks, Texas Parks and Wildlife, and will have the requirements that they want before they release the funds. And by that time, I want to have everything ready.
Yeah.
This is what we want to invest the money in. As I told you, trail expansion, lighting, marking the area for people, won't get lost. Maybe bathrooms, basic stuff. Yeah. So we have a list. So we'll have that. I'm trying to do my homework before they get here. And in this year for sure, hopefully March, April, May, you start seeing something.
And you brought up a great point. I mean, there's people that ride at night, right? There's these bright lights that you could tie onto your bicycle. And I mean, you see them snaking around Shiloh at night, in the middle of the night. People
because there's some races that are 24 hours. There are 24-hour races in mountain biking. You do it by team, and so you need to. That's probably what they're practicing for a 24-hour race. The team 24-hour race. But lights, we don't want to put lights all over the trails.
No.
Just just make it safer. Certain areas. Maybe do areas that were clear. Maybe put some new features. Just make it interesting, challenging as well for cyclists, and make it as an attraction. Maybe this will bring sport tourism to Laredo. Once we expand the trails and we have all these new features, going underneath streets, going over bridges, people are going to come down to Laredo, spend money in Laredo to use the park.
Yeah, I think I've always thought that's a no-brainer considering our terrain and where we are located. I mean, I know that the sport is huge in Mexico, in northern Mexico, but at the same time, Mexico remains being a dangerous place. Certainly, a lot of these trails are on the outskirts of cities, and it's not as safe to just go by yourself or just to go that often. And here we have the opportunity that we could draw a lot of tourists from northern Mexico to come and spend time and stay at our hotels and eat at our restaurants and go mountain biking.
Yeah, and make the best out of a bad situation. Unfortunately, in Laredo doesn't rain that much.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but because it doesn't rain that much, we're able to use the park more. The trails are always ready to be used.
The weather.
And the weather. If it rains, usually water gets soaked in. It's so dry that it gets soaked in fast. So that's why sometimes people from San Antonio will come down to Laredo and train, because it's been raining there for a week, but it hasn't rained in Laredo. So they come down, they have some business to do. They'll bring their bikes so they can put some miles.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Fernando. Anything else you want to talk about before we
if you haven't joined our Facebook page, Laredo Cycling Club, join it, like our page, and we'll be posting updates for everybody. in regards to Shiloh Trails, in regards to rides. Some of the most notable requests already mentioned, expansion of trails, and hopefully we'll have brick and mortar restrooms as well. That's the most requested.
For Shiloh.
For Shiloh, yeah.
Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Fernando, thank you so much. Please keep us updated on what goes on. Hopefully you'll be back.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Sergio. And remember, guys, wear a helmet all the time. Already broken 4. It's a good investment.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Fernando. On behalf of Frontera Radio, God bless you, and may you have a good night.